Good. We don't have- Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a very special Metaphysical Bible Hangout. I'm Reverend Sherry James, Senior Minister for Understanding Principles, and I am so excited to be with you here this evening. I get to share with you my brother from another mother, the hardcore metaphysician, the Reverend Gaylon McDowell, who is the, oh my gosh, Senior Assistant Minister at Christ Universal Temple. And I am so excited to be here and to have him be a part of this. Just a couple of announcements. We are wrapping this series for the Bible Hangout. And if you have the two things I'm looking for, one is speakers. If there are specific speakers that you want to be a part of the Bible Hangout, please let me know. The second thing that I'm looking for is what we're going to do, where we're going next. And I have a couple of things in mind, but I'd love to hear from you. What do you want to study next? Where do you want to go? What's important to you? Where is your soul leading you? So I want to just get an idea of that as I put together the lesson series that will start next week. So very excited about that. Let me tell you a little bit about Reverend Gaylon McDowell. I'm going to read from his bio because I thought it was actually an awesome bio. I'm going to shoot you that and tell you this was a really good bio. He says, the Reverend Gaylon McDowell is the Executive Minister and Senior Assistant Minister at Christ Universal Temple in Chicago, Illinois. He is the host of the internet radio show Truth Transformed on Unity Online Radio, a program that provides new thought lessons and insightful interviews to help people live better lives. Reverend McDowell is an ordained minister, licensed teacher, and board member for the Universal Foundation for Better Living. He has been on the Johnny Coleman Institute's teaching faculty since 1997. He is also on the faculty of the Johnny Coleman Theological Seminary in the teacher training program. Reverend McDowell is known as the hardcore metaphysician because of his passionate and powerful presentation of new thought. He presents lessons on new thought, metaphysical Bible interpretation, goal achievement, leadership, and culture shifts at churches, conferences, and community centers in the United States of America and beyond. His greatest joy is his daughter Angel, who is a college student. Reverend Gaylon McDowell, welcome to the Bible Hangout.
It's good to be here.
Honored to have you be a part of this. This is so exciting. Do you know, this is 6 years in the making, Gaylon.
6 years? Wow.
I've been doing the Hangout since 2013.
Well, I've been on the Hangout, but I've never been the guest before. When I came, I do remember showing up before, but I was just checking it out. Seeing what you had to say, so.
All right. Make sure I'm teaching on point. I'm not.
No.
Not just saying good stuff.
I already know you're on point.
Wonderful. Reverend Gaylon, will you please lead us in our opening prayer?
Sure. As we release Let Go and Let God, we just thank you, God, for this moment of growth, this moment of realization, where we know who God is in us and who we are in God. As we go forward today in this Bible Hangout, we recognize that we will receive new revelations, new insights, and practical applications so we can live the healthy, happy, and prosperous life that is available to all people. And so it is. Amen.
Amen. So we are wrapping up the mental equivalent. And the way we've been doing the Bible Hangout, it really came out of a suggestion that someone gave me from the survey that I did at the top of the year, which is, Reverend Sherry, this information is so great, but we need help applying it. And so I thought, hey, let me get my friends. Let me get the people that I turn to when I've got a question, or let me get the people that I listen to when I tune into their sermons and their talks and their podcasts and read their blogs. And so I wanted to introduce you to those teachers. Some of them you probably already know, but I wanted you to get an opportunity to just experience them up close and personal. So today wraps that series, and we'll start a new one with the same type of format. But today we're going to be looking at maintaining the mental equivalent. And so we're working with the last section in Emmet Fox's The Mental Equivalent, maintaining the mental equivalent. So the first thing I want to talk about is the top 3 ways that we keep ourselves from manifesting. The top 3 ways that we keep ourselves from manifesting. And Gaylon, I'm going to toss this to you because one of the things that he says in the text is that that we tell other people about what it is that we're doing. And he said, don't tell anybody what you're doing. And when you talk about what you're overcoming, you make these things real to your consciousness, right? Your subconscious mind. And you literally, I love this term. He says you leak spiritual energy. And so I want to kind of throw that to you and ask you to kind of expound on that. Like, what does it mean to leak spiritual energy? And why did you basically shut your mouth?
Well, I think it's a couple of things. First of all, people have a tendency to talk to people who can't help them. Let's just start there.
Oh, hello. Come on.
So
just start early.
let's just go right there. You know, we're having conversations many times with people who can't help us, who don't have the expertise, who don't have the understanding, who don't many times have the consciousness. That doesn't mean they don't love us, they don't support us, they don't want better for us. But sometimes they aren't equipped at their stage of spiritual growth to have a conversation that actually lifts us up. So when we get to the place to where we're trying to hold an intent, we're trying to hold the feeling, I changed the language of Emmet Fox to make it my own. I use the term clarity of vision and conviction of feeling for the polarities. So when we're trying to hold it, and we're also trying to explain it, and at the same time convince in many ways a person why we're holding on to our own thought processes, why we have to see this dream, why we see this healing, why we see this breakthrough. Many times we are actually dissipating and leaking our own pressure and force. So if we looked at it from this standpoint, just using a different analogy other than leakage, the difference between a light and a laser is focus. All right.
Yes.
So
yes.
You know, as he says in the booklet or the pamphlet, really the key to the teaching is change your mind and keep it changed.
Right.
So if I put a flashlight on this wall behind me, it'll just shine on the wall. If I use the laser, it'll penetrate through the wall. So part of making the demonstration of the mental equivalent is having a degree of focus and concentration that's necessary, that sometimes we don't want to put the work in to maintain. So while we're being loose-lipped with people who can't lift us up in consciousness, we're many times losing the pressure of our own concentration. Now, there are people who you can talk to. This is where I think that sometimes you just got to know how to massage a thing. There are times when you do need to talk and bounce things off of people who have the ability to give you good counsel, but you always have to make sure you're turning within and making sure that you're not shifting away from what you're holding in your consciousness. Because if you don't believe it for yourself, then how can you ask somebody else to believe it? If you're not convinced of it, why should you ask somebody else to be convinced of it? So the internal work has to be done first. Sometimes people are jumping out and they're doing the work without making sure that they're in a state of knowing.
Right.
And now,
so how do you get into a state of knowing?
Well,
and I'm asking you personally, how do you get into a state of knowing?
well, first of all, I'm weird.
You walk on fire.
Yeah.
You freaking rock. Okay, go ahead.
Exactly. I told you when I walked on the fire last year at Tony Robbins, I was like, would you get these people out of my way so I can walk on this fire? People get out of my way, please. This is ridiculous, having me wait to walk on fire.
Right.
But so for me, I think part of it is making sure that you get yourself in a particular space, a state of consciousness. Tony Robbins used the term state. People use different terminology. The idea is getting yourself in the space of clarity. That's the first step. So in the mental equivalent, he talks about how clear can you get in thought. So in other words, whether I'm using the tool of affirmation and denial, if I'm using the tool of visualization or meditation or vision, you have to get back to the basic mind action. How clear am I in my thought? And how convinced am I? Because belief activates the faith. And belief, at many times, there's conscious belief, but it's that subconscious, in your gut belief that helps you push through for the breakthrough. So when I'm working with myself and my things, I have to I get present with me. You got to get present, and okay, what am I seeing? What am I feeling? And then if I know that I'm not in the space that I need to be in, then I use the tools. Again, the tools of denials, or affirmation, the prayer work, the meditation, sitting in the silence. But for me, my primary tool is a little bit different than others. I read to get into that space.
Yeah. Okay, so tell me how that works. 'Cause I think I do that too.
Right. So like some people say, well, just go.
I think I do that too.
Right. Right. So some people say, okay, go sit somewhere and affirm this for 30 minutes. Or some people will say, go sit in meditation, or go visualize this for 30 minutes or an hour. That's just not how my brain works with it. So when I say, okay, I'm not where I need to be, I sit still, I'll do some reading, something I feel as though will get me contemplating on higher ideals, higher ideas, higher thoughts, higher principles. And then through that contemplation, it takes me to the place where I push the book aside, and now I'm with me, and I'm working with me. And for me at least, and I can't speak for anybody else, it's just like the Matrix. It just starts to download and come out. So the sermon comes out, the class material, the workshop, or do this or do that, or etc. But I normally use reading to help me get into that state, because I'm a reader by nature. So it's easier for me, just instead of saying, okay, well, I'm gonna go sit on the prayer rug, and I'm not knocking that, by the way, or the prayer chair or whatever. Let me read something to get my thought processes and to pull my attention away from whatever's going on in the present, in the five sense realm, and get myself into what it is that I'm seeking to demonstrate in my life. So for me, it's reading.
Yeah, I have a similar experience that definitely is reading, but I was reminded this past weekend with Tony how much music plays into that with me. Music is a huge part. And so I literally came home and like went to Spotify and got my UPW playlist, and then created my own playlist that when I hear that music, it's just it's a visceral kind of like guttural, like I got this, like
Yeah.
what they said this weekend. I freaking rock, and when
Yeah.
I'm in that state, then it comes, and it's this heightened belief in my own creativity, and being in that space is the ideas just flow. And I can trust whatever comes because I'm in that heightened state. So music for me is a big part, but reading for sure definitely does. And I start my day that way, and that helps. Just even to just order my day is making sure
Yeah.
that I read something at the very, very tip top of my day, almost the first thing that I do.
Yeah. And I have my go-to books, my go-to authors, etc. And I listen to a lot of material. I'll mow the lawn and I'm listening to something.
Right.
If I'm out there getting this Chicago snow out of the driveway, I'm listening to something. So the part of the process is the contemplation of higher thoughts, because somebody else's angle might not be what you use, but it'll spark
Right.
inspiration. And then it goes.
I'm so glad you said that. And I don't want anybody to miss that. That when you're in your day to day, you're listening. So you are. If I hear you correctly, what you're saying is you are constantly feeding your mind.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. Every day,
Oh,
all
that's
day.
fire.
Yeah.
And so let's just help us out. What you listen to?
Well, no, just you're talking about just
Like
whatever I'm led to
is it
listen to at that time.
podcast? Like who do you follow?
No. Well, I think it's dependent. I love Reverend Ike. I listen to
Yeah.
obviously CUT stuff and all of the different people who are involved with UFBL. Obviously I'm an old school, CUT fan, so I have all the stuff, everything from Reverend Wells, now current, going all the way back to Reverend Coleman and Reverend Winston Johnson and Reverend Joe Hill and all the folks. So I have all of that stuff still. And the Michael Beckwith. I might listen to Jack Canfield. I'm a very large, big Jack Canfield fan, big Michael Beckwith fan, big Tony Robbins fan. I have all that stuff on my iPhone, so I don't have to go anywhere. It's on my phone, not the Johnny Coleman stuff, but it will be soon. It will be soon. So for me, it's just dependent on what I'm trying to study. The way I look at study is no different than being at a university. You look for the seminal material. Like, what is it? Okay, If you're talking about prosperity, who do I need to listen to? If I'm talking about health and healing, who do I need to listen to? And so on and so on and so on. Now, that being said, once I get to the state that I need to be in, whether it's prayer, whether it's reading, whether it's listening to something, whether it's meditating, whether it's doing qigong, it could be anything. Whatever. Once I get there, then I set everything else aside because I know that what's coming out of me is my own inspiration. I'm just using it as a lever, like anything else. A lever helps you gain more, the ability to lift something much heavier than you normally would. Well, when you're looking and dealing with life, sometimes you're caught up in your everyday thoughts. You need a Joel Goldsmith. You need a Neville. You need a Charles Fillmore. Sometimes just to trigger your thought back to. I'm just gonna call it the beautiful. You got your space where I'm in my beautiful, and you can forget. Is what like we say the primary cause of suffering is our forgetfulness of our divine nature and spiritual beings with dominion over our thoughts and feelings. When we forget, it's good to have someone and systems in place, not just people, but systems in place to remind us.
Right. So one of the other things that he says that interferes with the ability to manifest is that we're always looking for the demonstration. So here's the question I have: how do you stay in a state of expectation without looking for the demonstration?
Well, this is kind of funny because being from the school of Johnny Coleman, she had, really strong opinions about a lot of this type of stuff. People say, she would say, if you want a fur coat, you pray for what you want. So,
right.
So, and even with Catherine Ponder, she would have things where she would say, well, she would tithe with the expectation to receive. And people say, don't do that. You don't expect to receive. But I believe expectation is a form of prayer. So what I would say is that sometimes spiritual teachers pull your attention away from the physical because they're trying to get you to develop the state of consciousness. So that's how I interpret what Emmet Fox is writing. That instead of seeking the thing, seek the consciousness, because if you have the consciousness, you can always reproduce the thing. If you don't have the consciousness, somebody can give you something and you can't maintain it, you can't keep it. But if you have the mental equivalent, as many times as you need manna to fall from heaven, you can have it fall. But if somebody gives you the manna and you don't know how to produce it yourself, you don't know how to make that demonstration for yourself, then it won't make a difference. So for me, at least, I would say that Emmet Fox is trying to get people back to Matthew 6:33. Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. Or we can just say that in a metaphysical way. Seek the spiritual ideal, seek your own spiritual wholeness. But let me just say this because I think this is important. I think that there's a passive and an active side to our teaching that sometimes isn't recognized. There are times when we need to be active, where we're denying and affirming and visualizing and doing all that, speaking the word. And then there's times when we need to be still and know that I am God. One is active, the other is passive. And we have to be in tune with our own divine intuition to know when it's time to be active and when it's time just to be still. And I think at times we're not real clear about it. So that means do more, pray more, meditate more.
Right.
So you'll know when it's time to stand, you're just standing. And when it's time to proclaim, you're proclaiming. There were times, if we use Jesus as an example, where he just stood because he was in his knowing. He didn't have to say anything.
Right.
And then there were times when he spoke the word for the food. He spoke the word for Lazarus to be resurrected. He spoke the word for the wine, the water to be turned to wine, etc., based upon the gospel narratives. So if we're using Jesus as a prototype, then we have to honestly say there are times when he was still, and then there was times when he was active. But I also think that the still time also makes your active power more. So when he went away to pray on the mountain, he came back, and his disciples were working with somebody that was dealing with some energy that they couldn't heal. The Bible called that casting out a demon, which is just your own soul energy stuff that's out of order. They couldn't do it, but because he had did the stillness work, his power of affirmation had more power. So as Joe Goldsmith would say, the power for you to treat your treatment is many times, and not many times, is dictated by the level of consciousness of the person doing the treatment.
Right.
It's not the words that make it happen. It's the consciousness that makes it happen.
Right. I want to touch on something because Andrea from Ohio, she says we have to demonstrate first in the mind. We must have realization. However, we must expect the manifestation. Ask, believing in it is yours. And I want to drill down on this because I just came out of Unleash the Power Within, and I feel like we do a lot of stuff in the mind and get no demonstrations in the body. And I think that we miss the opportunity to demonstrate because we're manifesting machines. We all got stuff in our life. So we really don't have a problem manifesting. Where our trouble is with conscious manifestation. We really don't have a problem with putting stuff out because stuff is out in our experience right now. So can we just do a little bit with this, like demonstrating first in the mind? Because I feel like I experienced something that unleashed the power within, and I think you experienced it too, Gaylon, with what it means to actually demonstrate in mind.
Okay, so let me just Andrea. First of all, hey Andrea, how you doing? Now, for me, I don't differentiate between the term demonstration and manifestation. That's me, because I think that we're always demonstrating consciousness. So for me, the demonstration isn't in consciousness. The demonstration is what shows up. That's me. For me, the realization happens in consciousness, the thinking and feeling coming together. Many times we get a revelation. We think the revelation is a realization. So I use a little formula that I made up. I call it revelation plus realization equals manifestation. Revelation plus realization equals manifestation. Why? Because since I've been doing this for 20 plus years, I know that people will say, I know God gave me the idea. I know I see it, but it's not real to them yet. It's a revelation. It's come to their imagination as a dream, as a goal, as a desire, as an idea, but it isn't real to them yet. So they expect the revelation to show up as the manifestation or the demonstration, and that's not the case. Until it's real in your own soul, then it can't manifest in the regular world. Now, I'm a big fan of Emmet because my favorite statement in all of New Thought and all of religion is there is no such thing as undemonstrated understanding. So from Emmet Fox's position, what we understand currently is what's demonstrating. So what I use, Andrea, is the term, and I'm not saying you have to use it. This is just my terminology. I use the term desired demonstration. We're always demonstrating. There's no such thing as not demonstrating because we're demonstrating our understanding. The key issue for me, at least, is, and how I teach it to students, is that somebody got some car stuff going on in the background.
That was me.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
It happened faster than I can hit you.
Okay. The key to it is, am I producing desired demonstrations? Do I have intention? Am I creating by design, or am I allowing life to happen? Because either way it goes is going to happen. Now, to get to the standpoint of the action to go along with the ideal. So if I'm really holding it in my mind and I'm speaking the word and I'm holding it, then my action should be in alignment with what I'm saying. Or as what I heard a speaker say one time, he said, life only works when the tongue in your mouth and the tongue in your shoe are going in the same direction.
I love that.
So I can't take credit for it. I didn't come up with it. I can't remember his name.
I'm gonna use that.
So if I believe what I'm saying, if I believe what I'm holding, then what are my actions that are backing them up? Now, again, there's an active and passive side to this teaching. Sometimes the action is be still and know that I am God. But many times the reason why we don't take action is because we haven't pushed past the fear. We haven't pushed past the indifference. We haven't pushed past the resignation. We haven't pushed past our own anxieties and frustrations and etc. So we're affirming this stuff. And this is what he talks about in the mental equivalent. We'll say I'm one with God. It has no feeling. I'm one with God's help. It has no feeling. But when we're in the state of the realization, then that will demonstrate itself. But it demonstrates itself in action and word, not just holding it in mind. So for instance, if Johnny Coleman would have just said, okay, I'm walking around with this 32-acre building, on 119th and Ashland, it stayed in her mind, it wouldn't have did anything. But she put a vision into action, and that allowed tens, hundreds of thousands of people through 62 years to have better lives, because she was able to put into action what she talked about. I'm gonna give another quick example, because I know we only have an hour, talking about demonstration and action. So in 1952, when Reverend Coleman, and I'm using her because she's our spiritual mother. 1952, she's 32 years old. She's told by her doctor via the phone, which is ignorant of itself, that she has 6 months to live. All right. She bumps into the table stand. Her mother had left the Unity magazine there. Opens up. She sees the prayer, faith by Unity. She sees the words, God is my health, I can't be sick. She picks it up. Her mother lives with her. She goes to her mother, who wrote this? And her mother's like, why you told her who it was. Well, how can they write this? And she goes through this whole thing about what just happened to her life. And being 32 years old, not even knowing what that means to live, and now is told, get your life in order because you're about to check out. You have 6 months. You know what she did? She drove to Unity Village. That's 9 hours from Chicago.
Right.
And this is what she said, for those who might not be aware of it. She said when she showed up at Unity Village, she said, first of all, it was like heaven. Those are her words, not mine.
I concur. I don't know what it looked like at that time, but it felt like that when I got there.
Yeah. And she talks about the rabbits and all the other things. She said she walked up to an older white woman, and she told the woman, she broke down and told the lady what was going on with her life. And this is what the lady told her. Again, we're talking about action, not just mental equivalent, action. The woman told her, don't worry about that. We'll teach you how to live. There'll be classes coming up next month. Be here for them. Now, Johnny's moved on into a new expression of living outside of the body, but she will tell you she don't know when she got healed. She just got into action. She's like, there's some people that can help me live. I'm not just going to hold that in my mind. I'm going to go get up with them. And she dealt with the racism and the sexism of a Black woman in the 50s to get what she needed to get. But guess what? She was holding that mental equivalent. If I can connect with these people and I can understand what they're teaching, I can live. And that's what she did. Hopefully that's a good example.
I think that's a great example, and it actually illustrates our third point with these top 3 reasons. So these are the top 3 ways that Emmet talks about that keep us from manifesting. We said that you tell everybody what you're doing, keep your mouth closed, or stop telling people they can't help you, or don't have the confidence to lift you up. That we are continually looking for the demonstrations, like we're out here looking outside of ourselves for what it is that we want to create. And then the third thing, which you just talked about, is not acting the part, acting the part. And I love what you said, that the tongue in my mouth and the tongue in my shoe got to be going in the same time. I'm going to use that. When y'all hear that on Sunday, you know where I heard it. You know where I heard it. So here's the question that I have, because he talks about the true action versus false action in the text. And he says something I think is really powerful. He says that if you are quietly persistent, you will gain the victory. It is always a little difficult to change a habit, but it can be done. And then the new right habit becomes easier than the old wrong habit. And that is how a new mental equivalent is built. And then he goes on to say, what is true action? A true action is one that really changes things, that gets you somewhere. A false action does not. So I want to just kind of spend some time talking about the difference between true action and false action. And I really want to help people be able to distinguish between the two so that they can look at what it is that they're doing and be able to say, is what I'm doing a true action? And the first thing he talks about is true action always produces a desired result. Now, do you know that an action is true when you start, or do you find out after it's produced a result?
I think that as you're starting, sometimes you're not sure. But I think this is where you have to have your self-evaluation in place, or as I like to say, if it's true action, it's measurable. It's objective and measurable. If I say, hey, I want to leave here and drive to Chipotle, and Chipotle is 5 minutes away from my home, and it's 5 minutes and I'm not at Chipotle, maybe I'm going in the wrong direction. It's not giving me my desired result. So I think one of the things that we have to be mindful of is many times we use energy, we use mental energy and physical energy to accomplish nothing. But you know how it is when people come to see us for counseling and people are exhausted. But when you start talking to them, you'll discover that they're busy-minded and sometimes busy in activity, physical activity, but it's not systematic, it's not intentional, it's not structured towards building something larger. So they're wasting energy and not going anywhere. Emmet Fox talks about it in the mental equivalent like marching in place. If I'm just marching in place, I can march in place and I would have made enough steps to walk to downtown Chicago by the John Hancock building, but I can still be standing in front of my own home.
Right.
So I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I'm sweaty, but I haven't accomplished anything.
Right. I've done the work to get somewhere, but I haven't gone anywhere.
Right. So it's important to recognize that just being busy mentally, emotionally, all right, with your career, with your business, etc., with your relationships, does not mean that they will be successful if you define success as the attainment of the goal. All right. I'm a basketball fan. The goal of basketball is to put the basketball in the basket. That is how you score. Out of all the rules in basketball, this primarily boils down to two things. Put the ball in the basket, stop the opponent from putting the ball in the basket in a particular time frame. If you do that, you win, you have succeeded, right? If you do that enough times, at the end of the year or the season, you will be victorious as the champion because you've stopped enough teams from putting the ball in the basket and you put the ball in the basket more than them. All right, now let's look at life. We don't want to measure because we get emotional.
Now you didn't say the thing that that's it. We don't want to measure what it is that we're doing, whether or not we're getting a result.
Right. Mm-hmm. So because or we'll do what we'll do something like what I used to do in the park in the neighborhood where I grew up in Chicago. There were 10-foot rims, and then when we were younger, we used to play on 8-foot rims. What we do in life is we lower the rim.
Come on. Yeah.
So it looks as though we're succeeding. So I'm 13 years old, 14 years old, and I'm doing Michael Jordan and Dominique Wilkins dunks on an 8-foot rim. So if you'd have saw me and you would have saw it at a certain position and I know that was an 8-foot rim, like, man, that young boy got hops. He's jumping all over the place. But it was an 8-foot rim. Of course, I could do backward double pumps and 360s and windmills. But on a 10-foot rim at 14, I couldn't dunk. Now, actually, by the time I got 15, I could. But it was real basic, like run, one hand, get the ball over the rim. But that was about it. You know, there was no Spud Webb things happening back then.
So if I hear you correctly, and I hope you guys are getting this, because this is so dope, and I'm so glad you're here. You got to set a new standard.
Right.
You got to set a new standard. We are many people. I ain't gonna put nobody on the Bible Hangout because I know y'all all reaching. You on this. You a high achiever. You can be doing anything else on a Thursday night, and you here. So y'all are high achievers. But many people are rolling through life, dunking on an 8-foot goal, thinking that they're doing something, mad that they're not getting the results of the person trained themselves to dunk on a 10-foot goal.
Rim. Let's not say goal. Rim. Okay.
It's not a goal. It's not a goal.
It's a goal if you. It's a score, but a basketball has a rim. Okay. Just for the record, it's a rim.
Jack put his head in his hands. Look.
Okay, so it's a rim. Yeah, it's a rim.
I love sports. I don't know the details of sports. I just love when it gets tense, and I'm always interested in the mental game. So that's it.
Well, but you got to realize this is one of the reasons why people like sports.
Okay.
Sports is one of the few things in life that are objective. Okay, it's either a touchdown or it's not. It's either a goal, soccer, it's a goal in soccer or it's not. You either hit the baseball or you don't. And actually, it's one of the reasons why I believe for many years up to now, people of African American descent have migrated towards sports because it was one of the few places to where objectivity was involved. Now, this is not the point of this show, but I just want to put that out because every basketball court is 94 feet. Every rim is 10 feet tall. It's always 10 yards to get a first down in football. It's objective. Now, if we look at our lives the same way and we strategize our lives the same way with our mental equivalent, then I think we can produce different results. I'm going to use another football analogy, if that's okay, Sherry.
Yeah, you're all right with. I love sports, so
okay. So
I don't get caught in the weeds.
Right. So when I was a little boy, it was a coach named Bill Walsh used to play for the San Francisco. He was the coach for the San Francisco 49ers. He created something that all football coaches use now. They call it the first 15 plays. That if you listen to football, what you'll discover is every coach shows up with the first 15 plays, and then they adjust. What they're trying to see is what works, what doesn't work. And then they start to evaluate based upon the first 15. Then when they go into halftime, they have the first 15, they have the adjustments, and then they come out and you hear the term with halftime adjustments. So all through the process, they know what adjustments they need to make. And as the game gets closer to the end, depending on the score, and the score is for us would be our measurables, our timeline, our objectives based upon our mental equivalent and what we've written down on paper. They will change the offense to meet the need of the moment. So if I'm down 3 touchdowns and there's 5 minutes left, I don't need to be running to the running back. I need to be a shotgun and I need to be slinging the ball. All right. Mm-hmm. If I'm playing basketball and I'm down 20 points and there's 5 minutes left, 6 minutes left, I need to be full court press. We never change our energy. This is one of the things that Tony Robbins talks about. We never change our energy to meet the moment.
This is so good. Go ahead. Let me
just go ahead. You got something to say. So
no, I'm just saying this is like because I want people to get this. And I say that because this is a process that I've personally been working with in terms of like how I do my year. And I love sports. I really don't know the details. I don't really care to know the details in that way. I love the mental game of sports. And so one of the things I started doing with my year is I started working my year in quarters. So my first quarter I treat as a year. So I'm doing what I call my 12-week year. So now I'm in the last, I don't know, let's call it 4 minutes. 4 minutes of the quarter, right? Coming down to March 31st. And I'm constantly shifting my plays, my strategies to hit my goal. Because I'm not waiting until December 31st to decide that I got what I want. I'm trying to get it up in March 31st. And then I got a new annual goal that I'm going to hit June 30th. So this is so dope. Yes, change the energy. Can we talk about changing the energy?
Right. So using the football or basketball analogy, if you are down by that many points, you can't play around with conservative play calling. So what they do is they change the energy. They do what they call a hurry up offense. In other words, we're not going to huddle. We've decided this is what we're doing. This is the goal. We're going to put all our energy. We're going to put our best plays in for us to be able to score quick, fast, in a hurry. Now, and it's no different on the defensive side. At that point, they're saying we don't need all these heavy, big players to stop the run. We're going to put all our pass rushes in, and we're going to put the people that can guard against the pass. So the strategy changes, the pace changes, the energy changes by necessity, depending on where you are. So if you say, for instance, you have a year-long goal, as you mentioned, and you put your measurables in at 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and then the end goal, and you're at 9 months and you're not where you need to be at the 3 months, then either you need to get out that game or you need to reevaluate, and say, okay, am I going to, it's time to start slinging this football all over this field. So let's take that back to our own lives. Okay. I'm working with, if I'm working with, say, for instance, a mental equivalent for healing, and I know this is what I'm seeking to produce. My energy has to be different than what it is now. So I need to be in immersion. I call it, it's like jumping in a pool. Okay, I need to be denouncing affirmations like crazy. I need to be writing scriptures and stuff and affirmations on 3x5 cards. I need vision boards and treasure maps. I need my meditation, my sitting in the silence. I'm reading. I'm listening to stuff. While I'm driving, I'm listening to stuff. What are you doing? You're in mastermind groups. You're doing all of the stuff to be able to create a critical mass. Your energy has to change. Your vibration has to change. What you're radiating and attracting has to change. So for instance, what I tell people all the time, in New Thought, I own the role of a preacher. Everybody in New Thought isn't a preacher. They lecture, they talk. I don't talk, I don't lecture, I preach. Why? Because there's fire in my belly. So it matters to me. So my body's going to demonstrate the energy that I'm projecting to people. That matters to me. It's not just a mental game. It's not just even emotional. I'm physically pushing the energy out. So it's necessary to have that massive level of shift. If you don't have that shift to get into a different state, then it makes a difference. The other thing I do that I love is martial arts, even though I've gotten quite lazy with it. I'm actually starting back up next month, going hardcore. But in martial arts, there's a shift that has to happen. And I'm not saying this because I know this is a church show and spirituality, but from a martial arts standpoint, there's an intention. I'm gonna give this example without saying who it was, because no violence happened, but I know someone who's a martial artist who's a very good martial artist. He was walking down Chicago in an area that wasn't great. And 3 men started walking towards him. And with his intention, he told the first one what he was gonna do to him. I'm not gonna say what he said to him. But it wasn't the words.
The intention.
It was energy that was radiating off of those words.
Yes.
It was energy that was radiating off of his eyes. It was energy that was radiating off of his body to let them know that his money might not be worth it. Okay. Yeah. Now, if that can happen in a martial sense, then how come that can't happen from the standpoint if you walk into a space with the proper consciousness?
Yeah.
That draws prosperity,
yeah,
that creates peace, that establishes love, that maintains divine order. Just because you're radiating that, if you can have enough intent to stop a criminal, 3 criminals from trying to rob you, then you should be able to walk into a room and people's bodies get healed.
Right.
That's where the camel goes through the needle's eye.
Yes. Gaylon, he says true action starts from the inside. I feel the energy that you are sharing right now. It's palpable, and you can see it in the comments. Jack said, preach, all caps. Nancy said, hashtag preach, yes. Amen. So we can feel the energy. I want to talk about how you come from the inside and not the outside. We're talking about true action, and I feel like I've seen a lot of bravado, if you will, that's hollow. How do I, Eve says, yes, preach. How do I make sure that what I'm giving is full of something and not just empty talk?
Well, I think is it coming from an authentic space? Like, we have a sense of wholeness, and then we can be in our ego. And here's the thing that's funny. I got this from Reverend Derek Wells years ago. I told him, he preached this in a lesson probably around 2004. He was teaching a lesson on the Jesus being the birth of Jesus. And he was talking about King Herod. And he said something that really threw me off. He said, people forget that Herod was a builder too. And Herod representing the personal will, the ego, etc. The ego builds its own structure. All right. But it's not created to be sustainable. That's why it's always being torn down and rebuilt, rebuilt. And that's why scripture uses terms like the stone that the builders rejected. is the chief cornerstone. You have to get back to the space to where you're coming from, the authentic spiritual nature within you, your own authentic spiritual wholeness. And when you're coming from that space, people feel it. People know it's real. People know it's authentic. People will get on board. People will get excited about the vision. It matters because it's so authentic that even if a person doesn't know what you're talking about, they connect to you. You know, one of the things the Reverend Boyd at CUT used to always tell us back in the day when we were in the teacher training program was people buy into you before they buy into what you're saying. Right. And sometimes we want people to buy into what we're saying, and it's fluff. Like I'm a person who's anti-fluff. I'm not gonna lie. You know, there's a lot of people out in the metaphysical world and self-help world, I'm just gonna admit, in my opinion, are ice cream soft.
Right, cotton.
Okay, now I'm not saying it's not a place for people. Okay, I'm not saying it's not a place for it. All right, but here's what I'm present to. People are hurting. People are going through stuff. Yeah. People are going through job loss, businesses breaking down, divorce, children acting crazy. People are taking care of their parents. Some people are taking care of their parents and they're taking care of their children at the same time. People are dealing with, financial loss. People are, dealing with, political upheaval. And we have people walking into mosques and churches and temples shooting folks. That takes a mental toll on people, even when it's not you, even when it's not your neighborhood. We don't have time to play with people about this truth. Tell them the truth. And as Johnny would say, put it on the plate and let them take off of the plate what they can handle, and leave on the plate what they can't handle. But it's our responsibility to make sure that we're staying for the authentic, practical spirituality that can help transform people's lives. And that's what I'm gonna stand for. That doesn't mean that I can't do the gold workshop stuff. That don't mean that I can't do the coaching things. That don't mean that I can't, because all that's still gonna be authentic me.
Right.
But but I'm about that real truth.
Right.
That unapologetic truth.
Unapologetic.
That hit you in the mouth truth. And it hits me first.
Yes. He says true action happens in a beautiful state of mind. Now that I put those words on it, but essentially it is that space where it's what Tony would call peak state. Can you talk to me about the beautiful state of mind that allows?
So what I would look at that as, Reverend Sherry, is being in a space to where you've gotten past your own inner resistance. If we look at it from the standpoint of, I am designed to work properly. Just that standpoint. Because many times we think we have to fix ourselves. We go to church, we go to religion, we go to psychotherapists, we go to the doctor, we go to fix. But instead of, there's something authentically whole about me that I need to uncover, discover, reveal, and demonstrate. So the beautiful state in a real way is me getting past my own mental chatter, me getting past my own noise of my past, my mistakes, my breakdowns, etc. Me not focusing on the potholes that I created and then drove into, or somebody else created them and I was unaware and I drove into them. And get into the space to where I'm clean and free and forgiving, and I've pulled my attention off of the past, and I'm not projecting worry in the future. And I'm in a space where I recognize that right here and right now, God is. Right here and right now, good is. Right here and right now, wholeness is. And because all of those things are true, right now, nothing is wrong. Now, does that take some time to get there? It depends on the person. Because one of the things that I think is a part of the malpractice of our movement is we tell people, well, if you just do these things, you'll get this result. That's erroneous, because everybody is starting from a different level of consciousness. People have different belief systems. And because they have different belief systems, me just giving you this might not necessarily mean you can do with it what you need to do with it if we're not starting from the same point. All right? We're teaching universal principles, yes. Okay, but if I give you an ingredients to bake a cake and you don't have an oven, then what am I talking about?
Right. 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 Right.
It doesn't, you
Right.
know, so, so, so the beautiful state, for me, allows spirit to work through us in a way that's more fluid
Right.
without the
Right.
resistance.
Right.
Because if I'm in a beautiful state of mind, I'm not fighting my own divine nature. I'm not fighting my own good. And believe me, people rather be right than happy. People rather be right than healthy. People would rather be right than peaceful.
Right.
And all of that is resistance.
Right. 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 So how do you get into a beautiful state?
Well, I talked about it earlier. You know, I have my own systems. How I work with me to get myself where I need to be. One of the things that I've figured out for me, and this is just me, speaking very plainly, is um, I tell myself I can't afford to allow myself to get too far off. So I feel it energetically when I'm not where I need to be. Because sometimes, you can get so busy going through the motions of doing the work, and only people who do this type of work really knows. People pulling on your energy, people pulling on your consciousness, people show up with questions without potential solutions, and you got to do the thinking for them as well. That's called ministry, y'all, if you all don't know.
Right.
The
Right.
best thing you can ever do for ministers in your congregations is when you show up with a question, have some potential options for answers. Anyway.
Three just type, say amen.
Now, so energetically, I know that means stop. Energetically, that means literally stop. I'll do things, I'll go to extreme measures. I'll do hey, everybody, I'm not talking on the phone after this time. And I shut down. No TV, no talk, no this, no that. Just reading, just praying, just journaling, working in my mastermind journal, etc. Doing the work. Don't let yourself get to the point to where your consciousness is running on low fuel. Because here's what will inevitably happen when you get to low fuel. Something. I don't know what it is.
Right.
Jesus said, he who hears my words and does them is like a man who built his house on the rock. And when the winds come and the rains come and the floods come and beat on that house, it will not fall because it was built on the rock. He says, but a man who hears my words and does not follow them is like a man who built his house on sand. And when the rains, the floods, and the wind come and beat on that house, the house will fall. And how great is the fall? Now, the house is consciousness. What are you building it on? So when life situations show up, and they show up, why? They show up for us to grow. They show up because it's a part of our individual experience. They show up because it's a part of our collective experience, right? So there's many factors in which a thing can show up into your life. But when it shows up, it will expose you for having a consciousness that's either built on the rock or it's been built on sand. And guess what? When your house is falling, when it's built on sand, that is not construction time. All right. That's emergency time. That's urgency time. That's massive breakdown time. So don't get yourself in that position. So things can happen around you in a real way. And let me just say this very plainly, because sometimes I think people really don't get this. My own mother had a heart attack in my living room with my sister. I went to the store. I was taking care of my mom in 2010. She had a heart attack in my living room. I came home, my sister panicking, ambulances in the driveway, the whole nine. She passed away several times. They revived her after 15 minutes. The hospital, died again 8 more times. They revived her back. This is the honest to God truth. And ended up, I'm saying, look, y'all didn't put her little body through everything. No more resuscitation. But I had to sign off on it because my mother had 2 children. I have more siblings on my father's side. My sister and I had to sign off. My sister was so upset about signing off on the no resuscitation, she passed out in the hospital. So my sister's in the emergency room and my mother at the same time. So first I joked and I said, okay, God, to whom much is given, much is required, but this is a bit much.
Right. You're doing a lot, God. You're doing a lot.
I know I can carry weight, but you know, come on now.
Right.
And then I got myself together. Why? Because of the prior work.
Right.
All right.
You
I
had
could
something
not
to
have.
stand on.
So that was a Thursday. On that Saturday, I was she was in hospice for a couple of weeks. That Thursday, I taught a seminar. The next Sunday, not that weekend, the next weekend, while she was in hospice, I did a sermon, and I asked the congregation to pray for my mother to release that body that didn't work because she was basically brain dead. I'm not talking about theory now. This is real. Okay. Did the funeral myself, all the way to the cemetery. And people say, how could you do that? How can you do all of that? Preach and teach classes and seminars and officiate your mom's service by yourself and all of that stuff and do the burial. And I say to people, every time someone asks me this at CUT, and I still get asked this question from time to time, I'll tell them, I can't say God is life and all is well when it's your mother, then clown when it's mine.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
I'm a stand for what I believe.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna, oh my God, life is ending, and then I show up at the hospital and tell you're supposed to be acting, you're supposed to be centered, you're supposed to be beholding the Christ in you, and knowing that your mom's life is is eternal, and then I'm gonna clown when it's mine. No, it disqualifies the message, it disqualifies the messenger, and don't talk to me about it. This message when I see you clowning. So people have to see. Johnny would say God with skin on, and I'm not saying that for me to promote me. I'm not saying that by no stretch of the imagination. It's not about me. It's about the example. Because if we're not willing to be the example, then the message has no teeth.
Right.
That's the real mental equivalent. That's the mental equivalent that allowed me to be able to do all of that and plan everything and do everything that needed to be done without it being an issue. That's how it's done. It's not this theoretical stuff, because we can handle how to get the money in the car and the woman or the man. But when life crisis hits you, you will know where you are in consciousness.
Right.
Are we over time? I don't even know.
You know what? This is so good, Gaylon. We are right on
okay.
time. So here's what I'm going to do, because we got to have you back. So we're going to find another date that works for you, because we didn't even do any of our breakout sessions. So, but that's cool. We didn't need to. We needed to hear exactly what you just said. I know that blessed so many people. I know that there's so many people whose lives were changed just by hearing that. I know so many people whose faith was confirmed just by hearing that. So here's what I want to do. We will have one breakout session. And what I want you to talk about in the breakout session is, what did you hear that you can put to work today? Not tomorrow, not when you wake up, but what did you hear? So what's going to happen is I'm going to turn the breakout session on, and then it's going to invite you to join. So you're going to click join. I'm going to pay attention because some of you are on the phone, and I'll drop you in a room if I see that you're just kind of lagging there. And so we'll go into a breakout session. But Gaylon, tell us if you want to say something.
So I want to make sure I understand. They're asking me questions or making comments?
No. We'll have 6 breakout rooms. It'll be like 4 or 5 people per breakout room. So you'll be in a breakout room. You'll be in one of 6 breakout rooms. So what I want you guys to focus on, I want you to share. We'll take just maybe 5-7 minutes to do that, and then we'll come back and then we'll close out. Kanisha said, that blessed me because I now know where my level of consciousness is and also where it is not. Andrea says, my faith was confirmed. Alita says, we don't do time. She said, I love you, Alita. I do. That's my Chicago family there. But we do have to have you back because this was just too fire. We're going to pick something and we're going to just pick a topic and just rip. All right. So when you see the click, just say join, like accept the invitation, and I'll tag you guys send a little message in the chat room when the time is ending. I'll give you like a 2-minute warning and a 1-minute warning. All right.
Okay. Do I have to do?
You don't have to do anything. All you have to do is say yes. You'll get the invitation, and it'll say yes, I want to join. That's all you got to do. And in the breakout room, what you're answering is, what did you hear that you can do something with today? like a change that you're going to do today. Okay, here we go.
Good.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Joe.
Hello.
Hi, Nancy.
Hey.
Hi, Reverend Terry.
Hi. So tell me, what did you guys hear? He said so much. Oh my God, he was amazing.
HCM, hardcore metaphysics. I love it.
Yes, 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 yes. So tell me, what did you guys hear that you can do right now?
This is Myra. I heard that I need to stay in the state of expectation without always looking for the manifestation.
Okay, got it, got it.
That's something I can work with right now.
That's dope. That's dope. Yes, yes, yes. Who's next? Who's that? What you got?
Well, this is Constance, and
Hey.
I heard, that I have to continue to be the example and stand on my beliefs no matter what. I don't move from them.
Yes.
I do not move from the truth.
Yes.
For me.
Yes, yes.
So that's what I heard, and it just reinforces because, of course, I taught a class tonight, Basic Truth 1, and everything Gaylon said, I'm like, okay, it's, it's class.
Right.
And I'm sitting up underneath him, and we have the same mindset.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And it is just keeping your truth no matter what.
And
you got to stand on it.
And because you've been doing this for a minute, and actually, Myra, you too, it's just realizing that you know this stuff. You know this stuff. This is not.
Yeah.
Sometimes we underrate ourselves, and and we pedestal people who have taught us, not realizing that I've been doing the work. I'm where the same people who taught me are, and I gotta own that. Like you gotta step into that. Like, I got this. I can do it.
Yes. And that's why I'm always open to sitting under you, sitting under someone else, so that I can be reminded.
Yes. Yes.
And know that I'm on my path.
Yes.
And always continue to be open.
Yeah.
To go a little bit higher, Constance, just go a little bit higher, just so I'm always teachable.
Yes. Yes.
Well, he also said that we need to constantly be feeding our mind.
Yes. Yep.
With similar material. So if we want prosperity, we go to the people who are prosperity leaders. Exactly.
I love that. He was saying not just people, you need a system. And I really like that too.
Right.
You need that system.
Yeah.
And another thing that really spoke to me was about changing your energy.
Yes.
That changing your energy was like, I don't know, that was like fire. I was like, that's what I got to do. I got to change that energy.
Yes.
I picked that up too because I love the football analogies because he talked about the first 15 plays. We still running the same 15 plays.
Right. When we know some of them don't work. Right? We know some of them don't work. Why would we keep doing them?
I mean the game. We already down 4 touchdowns.
Exactly. We know some of those plays don't work. Get you some other plays. Do the plays that work.
Be willing to admit that they don't work. Like, hey, this is not working. I'm not getting the results. Let me stop.
Yep.
Joe, let me hear from Joe. Joe, where you at? What did you hear?
Oh, I'm sorry. It was another person.
Yeah.
I don't have that much to say. Just the part where he says when he listens to throughout the day, and I've been doing that especially more since the Lent, and so it's confirmation for me.
Yes. All right, Joe. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Anything else? Anybody else? Anybody else? That changing the state is huge.
Yeah.
I'll give you this since y'all in my breakout room. One of the things that Tony Robbins got us to do, and Myra, I know you know this because you went through it, is that he got you to flip in and out of a state of mind like that. And what he did, he kept demonstrating it. So he would say, okay, I want you to like get into a depressed state. And then, you know, he would take you through, like, you really feel badly about something. And he said, all right, on the count of 3, I want you to get up and shout like you just won, whatever, right? And then, and he would do, and so he said, now how fast can you change the state of mind like that? How fast can you say, like, and so you really get that if you get your tools right, you can change the state of mind in a second. And so even before those of you that were on early, you heard my music. I had my Eminem going like, I'm not afraid.
Yeah.
Everybody, come take my hand. I'm listening because I'm changing that state, right? And I know that when I bring that energy up, then I transfer that energy, and that raises everybody else up that's in my sphere of influence. And then you go and do that in your world. So,
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Reverend Sherry, you said something that I picked up on too, how you have a 12-week year. I like that.
Yes. I play in quarters up in here.
Right.
I play in
now
quarters.
you're in the 4th quarter.
I'm in the 4th quarter of 12 weeks. Hey,
I
like that.
But I'm telling you, it really it made a huge difference in my experience, because I don't know about you, but I would get to the end of the year and it would be like I set goals, but I don't know that I achieved goals. And so I would be all the way at somebody asked for help. Okay. Okay, I gotta go help somebody in room 1. I don't know. But I set goals, but I don't necessarily like achieve the goal. And so I'm constantly like getting to the end of the year disappointed. And it was like, wait, I gotta play a different strategy. I gotta come in and I gotta be more present at the top of the year. And so I set goals that I could achieve in 90 days. And now I'm in the 4th quarter of the first 12-week year, and now I'm setting the goals for the next 12-week year. Let me go check out whatever this is.
Rooms. There she is.
There she is.
Hi, what's up? Yes. Oh, y'all got the good room. Yes.
I got an excellent room.
But you know, I think it's important to be practical. Because we can read and read and read and read and read, and just like you said about the tongues going in the same direction. A lot of times it's just not, unless you learn. I got a 10-month-old in here that's trying to walk, and until he learns how to steady himself and put one foot in front of the other, he's just going to stand there and dance, and so it's kind of hard to.
Hey, I'm checking.
Hello. Uh-oh, you muted. Did you mute yourself? What happened?
Did I?
There you go. No, there you are.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
Oh, no, Yvonne is muted. There you go. Okay. Good. So y'all are good?
Yep, we're good.
Just checking on everybody. Okay.
Okay.
What did I do? What happened to this? I got another. Oh, who's AMG is on breakout 3? Okay, great. All right, I'm getting ready to close the rooms. Did you guys get it? Okay.
Yep, sure did.
All right, closing the rooms.
All right.
Yourselves. All right. Wonderful. So let's hear. What did you hear? I heard things that were wonderful in my group. But what things came out that you guys can use that you heard tonight? Oh, now you're unmuted. Reverend Gaylon, you're unmuted. Okay.
Yeah, well, I did all the talking, so I would like to hear someone else speak, please.
Well, I was in the room with Gaylon as well, and a common theme seemed to be about energy. And I think that was something that
Mm-hmm.
resonated for a lot of people on the call tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah.
And we talked about
Yes.
that too. We talked about changing that state of mind. Olga, go ahead.
Yes. Yes, it was the energy also for us, and standing on your truth, standing on that truth, you know. So, you know, bringing the energy and standing on that truth, like Reverend said, you know, being hardcore. And I know I could be hardcore, but yes, being hardcore, standing on that truth and holding to it.
Right.
Yeah.
Who else?
Reverend, I really got caught up because with the whole concept of the malpractice thing. And I was telling Reverend Gaylon about my daughter, and you know how proud I am of my baby girl. I'm always talking about how proud I am of my baby girl. But she has been raised New Thought, and she's been demonstrating, and lately she's questioned because all of a sudden she's not demonstrating the way she's accustomed to. You know, I told her, if you think it, you believe it, you can make it happen. And is not moving as fast as she's accustomed to it. And she's going through that whole thing, whereas why isn't these principles working right now? You know, we're talking about millennials. So the whole concept on how do we prepare our young people as we work with these teenagers, okay, what happens when that time comes and it doesn't manifest just like that? Because actually the millennials they manifest left and right.
I got a little millennial right here coming up in this. Yes.
Gen X, Gen Z.
Gen Z, yes.
Hey,
Reverend
Sheree.
Sheree, what did you get?
Hey, what did I get? Okay, I'm just gonna be like unfiltered honest. Can we do that?
Yes.
So as a minister, one of the things, hey baby, as a minister, what one of the things that people expect is for you to say something profound when something tragic happens, right? So it's a bit of a pressure sometimes, right? And so what I got from Reverend Gaylon, my buddy, is to be more courageous in the response, because what I do is a lot of thinking about where people are, like who's having the challenge, where are they in consciousness, and what would they receive, what's there. I do a lot of thinking about that. I try to give a really thoughtful response because I care. And sometimes, occasionally, I'll post something that's not my fundamental truth because it sounds like the right thing to say. It sounds like an acceptable thing to say. So what I got from today, I wasn't able to hear the whole thing live, but what I got from today was to be more courageous in standing on the principles, because it really does matter. People do notice when they're looking at how you're responding. When you say that you live this truth, they're looking to see how you live it when it gets hard. And I'm aware of that, but I definitely am, like I said, I'm not 100 with it when it comes to responding to people in their pain. And that's what I got. That's what I got.
That's powerful. That's really powerful and challenging, but that's what made Reverend Della, that's what made Reverend Mary, and so made Reverend Johnny, that they were just unapologetically standing in this truth. And you weren't going to get, I mean, perhaps I'm sure they had these challenges because no one comes to this born into this kind of consciousness. But when we met them in their journey, they were standing unapologetically. And look, consciousness determines form. Anybody else? What'd you get? Mommy. Anybody else?
Do they know how to unmute themselves?
I think they do. Kanisha, you gotta unmute yourself. Where you at? Because Kanisha always got something profound I want her to share. Where's she at?
Look at her.
Yes, I am. Yeah. Late night, early morning girl. Staying up late for the Bible hangout.
You know it's my bedtime. So Yvonne and I were talking about what we were going to put into practice immediately was the question or the statement that we said coming in. And immediately I know for me is getting clear, not just clear about a mental picture about something you want to demonstrate, but holding that, not just a visualization, but the feeling of it, holding the feeling of what I choose for my life to look like, what I choose for my health to be like, really. And I read the book, The Mental Equivalent, front to back last night. So I read the whole entire thing last night, line by line, with my finger pointed to it. And it really resonated to me how he kept stressing about the feeling. So I know that was something that Reverend Gaylon spoke about, that energy, that state, being fully present with that energy and believing it. And what also got me was him standing on his truth in the face of one of the most challenging things anybody would ever have to do. It's fine as long as it's nice and fluffy and flowery and you got a job and your mama is cool and everybody is happy. It's like, what, are you good with it when you got the sheriff knocking on your door and you got 10 minutes to get out with all your stuff? Are you still manifesting and believing and turning water to wine? Or, are you good as long as you got a 401k and you got a job? But are you good when your last unemployment check is done? Like, and it's those moments where the hardcore truth of what you say you believe. Reverend Della, Reverend Mary, Reverend Johnny, they had life or death situations in the face of their belief. And that to me is what makes or breaks a person's belief system. If you really say what you believe. I mean, if you really live what you say you believe. Absolutely. You will be tested. You will come face to face with that. So that's what we got.
I feel a voice to men. What is it? Coolie high. It's so hard to say goodbye. Reverend Gaylon, you have been more than amazing. It is fitting that you close this series. I knew it was going to be this hot. I knew it was going to be this much fire. I was aware of it. I thought I was ready, but it exceeded my expectations. Yes. When you were talking, so like I just came out of Unleash the Power with it, and I was going, yes. 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 Make it move. Make it move. So we have to have you back. We'll figure out the dates with your schedule and everything. Thank you so much. Thank you everybody for tuned in. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you want to subscribe to the mailing list so that you can join us live, go to RevSherry.com. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Don't forget to let me know who you want me to bring to the Bible Hangout. There are so many amazing people that I can put my hands on. If there are people that you want to hear from, let me know. And then I have ideas where I want to go with our next series, but I want to hear from you. So I want to hear what you are interested in, and I will shape the material to suit what you need and what supports your soul growth. Thank you so much. If you're in the Los Angeles area, please stop by Up Church. We're at 600 West Queen Street, Inglewood, California. Our services are at 1 o'clock, so that means you can go get your party on, and you can still come to church. That's amazing. That's true. That's when you get your party, because listen, you can come party and go to Up Church. We party. You see me out there with, we do a party, I'm dancing. I don't play. I'm dancing. And I'm doing all the dances. Not all the ones, I can't do them all well, but I'm doing it. So what? Thank you so much. Have a beautiful night. I will see you guys. I will upload the video if you are watching live, not on YouTube, but you're watching this now. It'll be uploaded on YouTube tomorrow morning. Peace, everybody. Good night.
God bless everyone. Take care.